many different senses coming at you that I'd love to know all his thoughts, and I bet the debriefs are fascinating. And of course, thorough. He's a experienced driver with a lot to say, and he's very demanding. It would be such an impressive debrief to sit down and listen to all of the details that are different from last year's experiences to how this car behaves.
First time he's driven a Mercedes engine. Minardi, Renault.
Well, what about when he was at McLaren?
Oh, sorry. No, that's Honda, wasn't it?
No, when he was with Lewis at McLaren.
Ah, okay.
That was a Mercedes.
Yeah, that was a Mercedes.
Not a hybrid.
A current hybrid.
Yeah.
I was just trying to go through his career, and it's his 21st season. We go quite a way back. Yeah.
I'm like further. Yeah, he's still going.
I was just about to say, oh, yeah, it was that year at McLaren. Yeah, we've forgotten all about that. I was actually having a chat with Martin Whitmarsh, the CEO at Aston Martin, and Pedro de la Rosa about 2007 earlier today. They can laugh about it now.
Who was test driver and reserve driver at the team back then?
That's right.
2007, yeah.
Yeah, and rather embroiled in the whole Spygate controversy. And we were just reminiscing about old times on that one and teasing Pedro rather a lot.
Things that probably can't be repeated during this live broadcast.
But it did make me chuckle a little bit, some of the comments. But in terms of the current crop, the recent engine, is there a massive difference between the engine that Fernando would have had last year at Alpine and the engine he's got this year in that Mercedes? As a driver,
it depends what you mean by. Yeah, I mean,
is there a difference in the drivability?
Yeah, there will be. There will be, definitely. I mean, you're talking about drivers that can feel the difference between 1 psi of tire pressure.
Right. Okay.
From one corner of the car. So of course you're going to pick up on the differences of how a power unit behaves when you put your foot down, or how it feels when you downshift or upshift. There's so many details to it. And is it massively different? No, probably not. But there certainly are many, many differences that a keen eye will pick up on.
I would imagine as well that there's a difference in the steering wheel and the setup on that.
Hugely. I mean, they all do, again, a very similar thing. Like I said, with the controls, I don't know the Aston Martin steering wheel that well, and I didn't know what Fernando was actually changing before turn 9 and 10. But my guess would be that he's playing with either the brake bias or the brake migration mechanism within that can shift it from more front braking to rear braking as you slow down or release your pressure from the brake. All of the cars have a very similar mechanism, but they call them different things, and they'll be in a different position on the steering wheel. So you got to learn. Yeah, you got to learn the terminology and also the location of where that is, and that, to be fair, that's where the simulator massively comes into it.
Yeah, and he will have been in the sim.
You get that muscle memory going on. Yeah, and that's an important thing.
Like learning to play the guitar or something like that. It's all muscle memory.
Yeah,
I stopped after a couple of chords. It
look
wasn't
at that.
working for me. He was trying to hang on to the track limits. Was Logan Sargent, who's put in a 1:34.3 as his best time. So 9th fastest on the day overall. 55 laps he's completed this afternoon. Is probably a good thing for Williams with a rookie, as Valtteri Bottas runs wide into out of turn 10. Is it a good thing to think at Williams that the rookie's got half a day for his first day? You wouldn't want to chuck him straight in and say, well, Max Verstappen's probably going to do about 170 laps. Could you try and match that?
No way. I think they've played it just right there down at Williams. And for all the teams that have run rookies out there today, you don't want to bombard them, and you want to be kind to them as well, like Williams have done. You want to give them the best session in terms of its grip. So the track will be at its grippiest now. The sun's gone down. The cooler air brings higher density to the air, and therefore a bit more downforce at high speed, and you get a bit more grip from the tire to the road surface and less degradation. So everything's a little bit easier when it's cooler, and at the end of the day where there's most rubber's gone down. So it makes sense to give the lesser experienced driver that valuable track time when the track's at its best.
Chris Baldwin, hello. Chris asks, what consists of a wind tunnel run, Crofty? Is that a day or is a run a 1 hour session? A wind tunnel run, I think, defined as any period between the airspeed rising and falling above and below 5 meters per second. So it's not necessarily a length of time. It's what the airspeed is doing, if that makes sense.
Basically, when you hit stop or start on your wind tunnel, that's when the clock starts ticking. So, yeah, there's a lot of interpretation, I think, comes into play in terms of it's a very secretive world, and you'll never find out the true answer here. And I might be second guessing and reading between the lines, but because it's so secretive, it seems to be that there's a clever way in how you can use your wind tunnel, and a way that may be wasting you a bit of time in terms of how you prepare your runs before you hit that go button.
Right, okay.
So
helps if
as always, you'll find that the better teams are better prepared before.
tunnel is still, I think, very much optimum in Formula One. That's why Aston Martin are going to be investing in it. And we'll
that's why McLaren are building their new wind tunnel as well. So yeah, it is definitely better to have your own wind tunnel. Ferrari used to use Toyota's wind tunnel.
They did. And everyone used to use Toyota.
Everybody. I mean, it was state of the art back in the day, and but I think teams were realizing that actually, if we do have our own and go through the painful teething trouble of setting it up and building it in the first place, setting it up, getting the correlation correct, and learning it, understanding it, and utilizing it the best we can, it will, in the long run, it will pay dividends.
Yeah.
Rather than just going for a quick fix solution of just using somebody else's that's very good, but it ain't yours. And it's a bit like borrowing somebody else's car. You know, you got to get the seat position right. Well, I certainly do, especially if I was taking over from you. Your laid back geezer driving.
That was a great drive. That was a brilliant drive to Belgium. I thoroughly enjoyed driving you to Spa with one arm sticking out of the window.
It suits you. It's how Crofty drives. One arm out of of course he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like
casual.
It's taking over somebody else's car, and you might find what you think is a nice seat position. It feels comfortable by the end of your journey. It's never as nice as it being your car. When you get back into your car, you know where everything is. It's all just second nature, and that's, I guess, what it's like for the, in a simplistic view, must be what it's like owning and running your own wind tunnel compared to renting someone else.
You're just a fidget in a car, though. You never stop adjusting your seat position.
It's because I don't fit. I think they're all too big for me. They don't cater for the slighter gentleman.
Well, there are cars. It's just you don't want to drive them. You just drive a van instead.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a van.
No, nothing wrong with a van whatsoever. Oh, dear.
Said Lando Norris. Never.
Never. He's not going to drive a van around Monaco, is he? to be honest, as the Williams goes off in the background. Jake Michael Thompson. Can the FIA force livery changes if two different teams' colours are too much alike?
Good question.
A very good question. If Tom from the FIA is listening, you might want to comment on this one. I don't think they can, but I think they should be able to be honest. I'd be all up for that, and sorry, we don't like your livery. It's too similar. But then which one would have to change? Would it be whoever painted their car first?
Oh, yeah. Maybe you'd have to submit your car first.
Yeah. Or just rock, paper, scissors. It's the only way to sort it out. It really is.
So that was Logan Sargent going off in turn 10 in the background as we were focusing on Norris at the time. And then we went to the onboard and you could see it just made a diff change to the differential of the car. And you can open or close the diff depending on which situation you're in, entering a corner or mid-corner or just as you exit the corner. A more open differential will help to rotate one wheel faster than the other and help to rotate the actual car in that process. So the inside wheel will be spinning faster, therefore, with a more open diff than the outside wheel, and that helps to rotate the car around the corner to pivot the car, like I was talking about earlier on. If you say like a go-kart, for example, a solid rear axle, it has no diff. So as you try to turn, if you ever push the go-kart along, you turn the steering wheel, the thing slows down dramatically because it just won't turn because the rear wheel is just trying to go straight as you turn the steering wheel because it's just trying to push itself on. That's what a locked diff gives you, that feeling of a lack of rotation as you turn into the corner. So you're trying to play it. Under braking, you want the diff to be quite locked.
Yes.
That gives you nice stability. Yes, exactly. Because you haven't got one wheel going faster than the other and it doesn't snake around. So you want a bit of a locked diff in braking and acceleration. But into the corner, at that critical point that you turn in and you want to get that extra bit of rotation, that's when all the fun and games start happening with a diff. And then as you start getting back on the power as well, you don't want it to lock too quickly, especially in a slow speed corner or even a corner like that we saw Orlando come around turn 14, 15 onto the main straight. You're balancing everything on the throttle pedal and the steering, and you don't want the diff to be doing the wrong thing at that moment and suddenly snapping you round. Or here's a good example as well, exit turn 2.
Yeah.
You don't want it doing all funny things. So, and you can control that to a certain extent from inside the car. You can open it a bit more for one corner, close it a bit more for another. And it's
not the easiest thing to do.
It's really not the easiest thing to do, to think, right, I remember how the car felt that last time around. This time when I approach that corner, I'm going to do this or that to try and help my cornering.
So you're trying to pivot the car around to get it straighter, quicker, to get on the power quicker? Is that a simplistic way of looking at it?
It is. Definitely in a slow speed corner. Yeah. And then you can have another element to the diff, say like in the high speed situation, you've got a diff control for just high speed, where you might even be flat out going around a corner. So like turn 12, for example, here might be flat out in qualifying, but the diff might be a bit too locked through there, pushing the car, creating a bit more understeer, and even though the aero of the car, the aerodynamics is dominating your grip and balance at that point, the mechanical balance still has a big influence. So if you can play with the diff in a corner like that, for example, it can all help to ease things up for you from inside the car. So the driver's thinking about these things constantly. It's not just push the pedals and turn the steering wheel. I can see your mind's blown.
Honestly, it's hurting my brain, let alone the person in the car, quite frankly. We got just under an hour to go, Ant, of the first day of 3 days of pre-season testing. There's Lewis Hamilton out on the track, lap 49 for him, with the third fastest time, behind Sainz, behind Verstappen, and maybe we can follow this lap all the way through to its completion. Now we're looking at tyres. We've got it's one of the medium tyres on there. So if it's just the Pirelli painted on the sidewall, that's the C3, and the line is the C4. Is that right? It's a C3 or a C4. And it's not.
I'm not ignoring you.
No, you're just trying to look it up. You're a very, very nice man for that one.
The yellow text only is the C2.
Oh, yes.
The yellow lettering And the yellow line is a C3.
I knew I'd do that. I absolutely knew I'd do that. And I almost think I did it on purpose because we have 6 tyre compounds this year, ladies and gentlemen. 6, and they start at 0.
Of course.
Because 0 is last year's C1 tyre. Yeah?
Yeah.
This year's C1 tyre is the new tyre that's slotted in between last year's C1 and C2.
So, yeah.
So we start at 0. Thanks, Pirelli, for that one.
So the teams thought last year that the hardest tyre in the range, the C1, and the C2, it was a too big a gap in performance between two. So
no one wanted to use C1.
Yeah, they've injected another intermediate step between those two.
Yeah.
And they've had to shift the C1 towards the C. Now it's a C0.
Why don't they just keep it at C1?
I don't know.
I don't see why we had to have a C0.
So all the rest are the same. So the C5 with the red text and red line is the softest. The C4 is just the text, the red text only.
No, because
C3 is, we've covered that one, the yellow text and the yellow line.
Because it's going to be hard, medium, and soft when it comes to the race anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, come race, you're not going to have the mix and match.
That's
of
the continuous
text
line
with lines.
Lando Norris has got there. I just C0. Stop it.
White text only. C0, hardest tyre we have. So if you see that on somebody's car and you go, oh, lap times don't look that tasty for them, it's because they're on the hardest tyre.
Yeah, which was the C1 last year.
Yeah.
And the C1 is the new one.
You just wait till the C1.5 comes out in 2024.
Oh, please don't. Oh dear. Let's go back. Let's go back to wind tunnels.
Oh, hang on, Crofty. Before we do that,
is that a prototype?
You've got the prototype tyre.
Oh dear.
Which has no text or colour markings on it at all.
One.
Yeah.
See that one. That's the name of the prototype.
Yep.
And I have to say, Nick de Vries, all at sea, going through that corner. That was a little scruffy at the top of the hill. Now, whether the wind has got up just a little bit. Trouble is when the lights go, when it gets a bit dark, I can't see the flags very well. It is still pretty stiff and breezy. And he had a tailwind coming out of turn 12. Your windsock photo that you tweeted is still relevant.
Well, I don't think it's tweeted, Crofty.
No.
It won't upload. I'm gutted.
And has taken...
I rarely tweet, and the time I come to tweet, it's not working.
You've taken 2 photos today of windsocks, and you were really, really proud of your windsock photo collection. Honestly.
If Nick de Vries had seen that photo before getting in the car, he would have known not to carry so much speed through turn 6 and 7, and he wouldn't have ran wide on the exit. Because that's where the crosswind is. So blow in the car on the exit of turn 7.
Why has Nick de Vries struggled today? See Elon Musk. Is that what you're saying? It's his fault. Right. Dan Vitali says, what's stopping a team? Tyres and wind tunnels. This is testing chat today.
Yeah.
What is stopping a team from running their wind tunnel 24/7 if they found, as you say, a clever way of adding or removing test articles? It's a very good question, which brings me then to wind on time in hours. And there's a sliding scale for that as well. So 100% for the 7th team of the Constructors' Championship is 80 hours within an aerodynamic testing period. Yeah. Red Bull get 50.4 hours because of their penalty for being champions and their penalty for breaching the cost cap on top of that. So there is a wind on. There's wind tunnel runs and there's wind on time as well.
But I think the question might be alluding to, how is it policed?
Well, the FIA...
On to your next page.
Onto my next page. How is it policed? Well, isn't there... The FIA can see all the data for the wind tunnels, and they're allowed access into the factories.
Yeah, at any point they can arrive at the factory. They have access to all of the data, so they can tell when the wind tunnel's been activated. And also on top of that, just in case a little bit of fudgery goes on with the data, they have 24/7 CCTV FIA cameras inside everyone's wind tunnel from multiple directions as well.
Wow.
Oh yeah. They ain't getting away with that.
No, we need that on the channel. That'd be great.
You need that in the commentary box.
Well, what, wind on? Every time
Wind
we open
on
our
time.
mouth.
Oh, that's a minute into the. You're out of wind tunnel time, Crofty.
You're out of
wind
breath.
on time.
Oh dear. Tom from the FIA is listening intently today. As the second time he's come back to answer our queries. He said, regarding liveries, ladies and gentlemen, it's both the FIA together with F1, so the governing body and the commercial rights holder that approve the liveries. I saw Stefano Domenicali last night. I should have had a word with him about the Haas and the AlphaTauri. He'll be here tomorrow.
Well, we wouldn't have known because we hadn't seen the shot of them coming head on towards us.
Good price. Well, we know now. We'll go together. You and I, we'll go and have a chat. So can you tell the difference? Let's see what he says.
Yeah, we hold up a card in front of him. A head-on shot of, first of all, the Haas and then the AlphaTauri and then vice versa. And which is which? We've got a second to give us the answer.
Thank you, Tom, from the FIA. We're gonna this could be a theme for testing now. Tweets answered by Tom.
Tweets for Tom.
Tweets for Tom. We've got F1 drivers reverse parking and tweets for Tom. These are our creative ideas, and it's only day one, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good though. You need to get this stuff out on the table at day one.
Oh dear. What have I missed so far? What's going on with McLaren? Says Jay, and people are joining us all the time. So Lando Norris is now 8th fastest. He's done 31 laps. He's lost quite a bit of time in this afternoon session because of a problem with the wheel brows, which just basically looked like they needed reinforcing.
Yeah,
just a touch.
Very flexible in the wrong way. I mean, it should be a solid structure there, and they were starting to flap around to the point where they pulled the car into the garage and had to make a pretty comprehensive repair job. Fernando's on a good lap here. Car looks good. It's a good time of day to be doing this. Looks like it's a brand new set of the C3 tyre. Yeah, middle sector is personal best as well. Only 2.5 tenths down on Verstappen's time of a 32.8. I'm glad we're staying with these pictures here. Fernando on the limit.
What a story that would be today for Fernando Alonso, albeit
here we go
a lot later in the session than when Max set his time.
Wow,
to set the
P2.
second fastest time.
And the fastest last sector.
I know, of the day. What a story. Fernando Alonso, 3/100ths of a second behind Max Verstappen.
Has he finally chosen a team at the right time?
No wonder Mike...
It had to happen at some point, didn't it, in his career?
No wonder Mike Crack was grinning when I saw him earlier. He looks a very happy chap.
Wow, that's a very handy lap time. Basically, as fast as Verstappen.
Yeah, the last sector.
Both on a 32.8.
Absolutely brilliant. Here is Verstappen's car. With Verstappen sat in it. But with 48 minutes to go, setup changes, looking at...
Here we go. So all these shiny... I'm looking for the shiny sidewalls of the tyres, a telltale that they're all on new tyres. And Leclerc's done 2 personal bests as well. Not as fast as Fernando Alonso.
Or his teammate Carlos Sainz from this morning. Or Verstappen, who's still out in front. So this is an interesting time here. We're just on the cusp of Q3 time. Were we at qualifying a week on Saturday? And a couple of maybe lighter fueled runs there, taking Fernando Alonso second fastest, Charles Leclerc fourth fastest. While we watch Lewis Hamilton at the wheel, let's see what is happening down at Red Bull. Rachel Brooks.
Hi, Crofty. Yes, I've come down to have a look in the pit lane here, and just moments ago when Max Verstappen's car came in, it came down off the jack when it came in. So you can see now Jonathan Wheatley there with a couple of the mechanics looking really closely at the jack concerned. It's actually, they saw some marks on this one here in front of me, and they're comparing the two right now to see if they've got a problem with these jacks going forward. But it happened here just now, so Max's car is back in the garage. A couple of guys had a look underneath to see if there was any damage, but some concerns about this at the moment. But as we know, testing isn't just the cars, it's all the equipment up and down this pit lane as well. It's mechanics and engineers making sure they all know their job, and they'll bring you little bits of equipment like this to the testing sessions to see if they work. Last year, of course, we had those rear jacks where they had to jump on them to lift the cars up because the weight had increased so much. And they had to find out who in their team was fit enough to be able to lift the rear of the car. But this is the jack concern that caused them an issue earlier. So that seems to be, though, Crofty, Red Bull's only problem so far today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. That time from Max Verstappen of a 1:32.8, the fastest time we've had. Valtteri Bottas, does that look like a shiny new set of tyres? It does to me. And as he sets off on his latest run in the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, when I spoke to Pierre Hamlin from AlphaTauri yesterday, Nick de Vries's engineer was of course Pierre Gassie's engineer last year. He was saying this is the time of day one, where we'll start to focus on performance runs. You'll see all the teams doing that. So he said, and he got it absolutely spot on, aero rakes running first thing in the morning, and then sneaking the car down in terms of ride heights, focusing just on the correlation side of things as the day goes on. After lunch, sun will set, start to focus on the performance runs, take a bit of fuel out of the car, and turn the engine up slightly as well, and all those things that come with performance runs, as we know. And that's the format of the day. And so now I'm not surprised to see those shiny sidewalls on all the cars, and we're seeing some faster lap times on the board.
We certainly are.
And drivers pushing harder as well. You can see that Bottas there at the wheel of the Alfa Romeo, pushing hard, going off the track slightly at the exit of turn 12. A few more lockups here and there. You're not in race mode anymore. You're hustling the car around. Fernando was impressive as always. I mean, 42 years old. Where's he finding the motivation? I retired when I was 42. He's still in Formula One.
He's finding the motivation. He's just one of those supremely driven athleades.
I'm reading a quite a fascinating book at the moment by an ex-athlete, a rower, I think a female rower, called Mind Games. If you're intrigued into what makes an athlete tick, I can highly recommend it.
Did you play mind games in rowing?
No, it's about your own mind. Games you play with your own mind. Yeah, the whole psychology around what makes an athlete tick.
Just see this
from all different sports. She was a rower, an Olympic at Olympic level.
Right.
Brilliant. Really, really fascinating. I can. One interesting thing. Sibling rivalries.
Yeah.
Statistically, you have a higher chance of seeing a top performing athlete as the second born sibling, not the first.
Because they're always in competition with their elder sibling? Statistically,
really? It's something like over 60 or 70% of all successful athletes are the second sibling.
Wow.
It's some massively high percentage. Yeah, exactly that. You're constantly, nothing's good enough. Whatever you do is nothing's good enough.
Has Fernando got an older brother?
I don't know.
Sister? I don't know.
I mean, it's not always the case, of course, but yeah, have a read of it. It's interesting. And all of those pitfalls you come across as an athlete, you're fighting your own mind a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
And Fernando's just one of those people that can't find motivation year after year, no matter how old he is. For him, the age is really, I know it's a cliche, the age is just a number. He's still as hungry as he ever was.
He's still 21. He really is. Tadjistante, I hope I pronounced your name properly, says, what's going on with Mercedes today? Sandbagging or really worried? Well, fifth fastest at the moment with Lewis Hamilton. George Russell did his stint this morning with 69 laps. I think, I don't want to read too much into the times. We're all getting really excited now because look, there's somebody up there that isn't one of the top three teams. But it will be interesting to answer that question, maybe in 40 minutes' time, to see if Lewis Hamilton is going to go out and do a more low-fuel run, it is not in Mercedes' nature necessarily to be chasing lap times in testing. But surely after the year they had last year, and they'll want to be trying some more kind of speedier performance runs to see if what they think they've got for this year actually does correlate onto the track in terms of performance.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to be looking more towards performance towards the end of the day when it just seems like the most natural thing to do when the track is at its most relevant, or one of the most relevant points in the proceedings over the next couple of days here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we said, some teams are deciding to top and tail it with their drivers. Mercedes being one of those teams. It was George that started the day, Lewis ending the day. So he gets optimal track conditions for today.
Yep.
So you'd have to say, therefore, tomorrow it's got to be, it should be George. Who do the afternoon maybe tomorrow. Or,
and then what do they do on the final?
Yeah, I don't know how they approach it that way. But there's a clear focus, as we have in the Grand Prix weekend proper, during the test sessions, that you prioritize different elements of your run plan to the different track conditions.
Yeah.
So now it's a prime time to be focusing on more performance runs. And I think this is McLaren.
I was going to say, he's done an out lap.
Yeah,
so
tiptoeing round,
focus on this.
Shiny sidewalls, heading down the main straight, DRS open. This is a hot lap coming up from Lando Norris. Brake just at that red and white curb. Slow it down into second gear. Pinch this corner as tight as you can on the exit to help open up turn 2. On the throttle as early as you dare with the rear squirming around before you get into that second DRS zone, heading towards turn 4. Bring the car just off the track there on the left-hand side before the track dips away at you on the exit of turn 4. That track would have been deleted. That lap would have been deleted in qualifying, because it was all 4 wheels over the white line through turn 6 and 7. Don't run too much onto the red and white curb. Slow it down. Be patient in turn 8. Personal best sector for Norris in first sector. Up and over the brow of the hill through turn 9. Squeeze the brake pedal. Don't hit it too hard, too late. You don't want to lock up at that stage. He doesn't. Gets the car rotated, as we were talking about earlier on, into the third DRS zone here towards turn 11. Looks like a pretty decent lap so far, apart from that scruffy turn 4 exit. Uses a lot of that red and white curb. I saw him doing that last year as well before turn 11. Just helps to open it up slightly more into the second sector. Pops up there, personal best, but he's 8.5 tenths away at this stage already. Off the track again in turn 13. The rear really not hanging on to the back end of that McLaren, just squirming around once again. I think that's what ran him out wide on the exit of 4. Into what I call the final corner. It's turn 14, but that's 15. And you'll see the DRS open one last time as he heads back onto the main straight, second off the pace. And it looked like he was pushing.
Yeah, it did. It looked a
We don't know the fuel load.
Ragged at times.
Yeah, but it's same tyre as Fernando Alonso was on.
Look, if that's genuine like for like, fuel load for fuel load, within about 10 minutes track time of each other, what's happened to Lewis Hamilton?
Just lost the rear bit. Yeah, similar to what happened to Lando actually in his lap. He's on the prototype tyre there as Lewis.
That it's worth pointing out there that the difference in the way that lap looks between Lando and Fernando. Now
we don't know the fuel
loads. We don't. But let's just assume that the fuel loads were similar. A second between Aston Martin and McLaren. That's going to raise eyebrows in both directions, Aston Martin and at McLaren, isn't it? Because these are two teams that may well be competing quite closely together on the track during the course of this season.
You would have expected them to, but before even coming here, there were a lot of happy faces down before the car even turned a wheel. There were happy faces down at Aston Martin. But look, the fuel load can do an awful lot in a Formula 1 car.
Yes.
It's 6 seconds worth of lap time between an absolutely fully brimmed F1 car with fuel or a car that's only got 4 or 5 kilos of fuel in it.
Yeah.
6 seconds of lap time. And then you get into the whole DRS or no DRS, tyres the same or not. So, and engine modes as well. There can be another even 8 tenths in the bag with engine modes getting turned up or down. So there's a long, long way to go. All I know, as a driver, I saw this guy pushing really hard. I saw Fernando Alonso pushing really hard as well. They were giving it everything. And yeah, it wasn't happening for Lando. The car just looked a bit more nervous. The rear of the car not sticking well on the exit of turn 13, off the track in turn 4, and just he couldn't get on the power and carry that speed how he wanted. So the car looked more stuck to the ground. I was looking at the car with Fernando. I'm sure it looked like he had more downforce. If I didn't know any better, it looked like the ride was better and he had more downforce.
Is there a little feeling in the back of your mind, and I hope I'm wrong about this, and I really don't want to be right, that for the second year running, McLaren are going to have a real struggle at a Bahrain test and put them on the back foot at the start of the year? It's not what any of us want to see. We want to see teams having a good test and then all going jauntily into the first race and being rather close together.
And yeah, I mean, perhaps I hope not for their sake, but you pick up you pick up little signs, and another one I've picked up here is the Alpine into turn 1. Looks incredibly stiff, low to the ground, incredibly stiff, and it was a big old rough ride in the middle of the braking zone, which is really uncomfortable for the driver and put him offline.
Is that something they might be deliberately trying and run a more stiffer suspension for a bit, just to see what the results are? I mean, it is testing after all.
And he's on the prototype tyre, so who knows what they're doing in terms of, how far can they push the car with ride heights. It's like I say, it's a representative time of day and track condition to be doing that. But the fact he's on the prototype tyre would suggest that they're trying to learn other things rather than just going for a lap time.
Scotty Designs, by the way, wants to say that the wheel brows, he'd like to change the name to wheel flippers in commemoration of the porpoising we saw last year. I get you, Scotty. That's a very nice idea, but we liked wheel brows, and it wasn't our suggestion. It came from one of our dear viewers during the course of testing, and we have adopted it. Wheel brows it is.
I think others have as well, haven't they?
We're liking we're liking the wheel brows thing. By the way, I made a comment about the two-tone blue on the Williams team kit.
You did.
It wasn't my favourite, but I've just seen the mechanics there with the overalls on to go with the new sponsorship.
Oh, here we go. You're going to start backtracking. Oh, the overalls, though, on the other hand, especially in the light, when the lights are on and the dusk. Oh, they look so much better in the dusk.
Pearl blue and orange. It's a beautiful, beautiful combination. That I like.
So particular.
Yes, you wouldn't have thought it, would you? Bouncing, bumping, over the bumps, or porpoising? It's the question every time we see a driver's crash helmet nodding up and down.
Well, let's have a look, if we can, into turn 1. We saw the Alpine crash into this bump earlier on. He's backed out of it, so we're not going to get a true representation. There was no DRS on that lap. Now he is on the white striped and texted tyre, which is, do you remember, Crofty?
It's complicated, confusing, and known only to Ant, because he's actually written it down.
I've written it down. I was.
Oh, so he's got it on a message on his WhatsApp.
I know. I'm desperately, frantically scrolling through the messages because I've lost it.
Never start a sentence before you know the end.
I'm going to say it's the C0.
The C0?
I think. Yes.
Which is not the new tyre for this year, the new name for a tyre for this year. So,
of course I was wrong. It's the C1.
Yeah, of course.
I was just testing you.
So that's the brand new tyre.
The brand new tyre.
Well, it looks the same to us, but you will tell me that a driver can feel the difference.
Oh, most definitely feel the difference. Yeah.
But what it means is, well, so here's the thing. Are Mercedes conducting a higher fuel run for this moment in time? Or is there a way that Mercedes might be thinking, do you know what? With a slight change to 2 races, 2 events for the qualifying format this year, we'll do a bit of a low fuel run on a harder compound tyre. Something that's happening this year is that
not with that lap time. Sorry, Crofty.
No, not that.
No, not at
Fair enough.
37.1. So this is a true race run. Lots of harvesting going on there. The lights flashing. No DRS. Hard tyre. 4.5 seconds off the pace. This is a proper, I'd say, yeah, it's got to be a race run. Maybe not fully brimmed, but yeah, it looks to me like that was a very different approach to on the yellow stripe.
So let me change my question then. What do you think to this RQF for 2023? What do you say, Crofty, is the RQF?
Is this the
revised qualifying format that will be trialled at 2 events where tyre compounds will be mandated for each stage of qualifying. So hard tyres only in Q1, medium tyres only in Q2, and soft tyres only in Q3. What do we need to revise anything for qualifying, or does it work as a spectacle?
I liked it how it was.
Or is it worth just trying to change?
it?
Try the change, see what happens.
But why try and fix something that's not broken?
Wow.
I really think that the qualifying format was something that didn't need tinkering in Formula One. I liked what they did last year. It was a small adjustment so that we saw it, so we didn't see teams having to run a tyre that they started the race. That made sense to me.
Yeah, the fastest lap in Q2.
Yeah, but I think what they came up with I can't see it working any better than that.
Your thoughts as ever, most welcome. Freddie Vasseur watches on, the new Ferrari team principal, and just a few garages down for Ferrari is Alpine, but not many garages down for Ferrari is Alpine, where their reserve driver Jack Doohan is talking to Rachel Brooks.
I am, Crofty, and this is perfect timing because look, Esteban Ocon is coming in for a pit stop and we can see these wheel guns. Blue when he comes in, staying blue. As soon as the wheel's on and it's in position and there are no issues, the gun goes red and they know it's a clear pit stop. But as you mentioned, I am down here with Jack Doohan, who can't hear me right now because the car is on it. There we go, perfect timing. Jack, what have you taken away from today? What's been your biggest takeaway from today?
I think that, it's a lot of testing for sure. Every team's doing something different, so it's very hard to keep track of really what's going on. We can only obviously focus on ourselves, and we're gathering a lot of data. It's been a smooth day, so no technical issues, and that really is the main point at such an early part of the season, being day one, to get through something with smooth running, to be ticking off the checklist, and to really move forward into testing with another clean slate of paper and not really a setback is super important for us.
You've been able to hear the radio all day, so you've been hearing the feedback from the drivers. The way they deliver the feedback, I'm not asking you to tell me what they're saying, but the way they deliver the feedback, is that anything new to you? Is it similar to what you're already doing in F2?
Yeah, it's very similar. Obviously, they have a little bit more to expand on because they have further tools that they can really work with. But it's similar. They're working on rebalancing the car. Exchanging with their engineer kind of feedback to what they would like, what they think can be better, how they're feeling, what also is good. So it's something that I'm trying to pick up on as well. I try and see what Pierre's saying, see what Esteban's saying, see how they really speak with their engineer differently, and anything that I can take for that to relay back to my work is also something I can take away.
If we just step forward a little bit away from the noise for a second. How tough is it standing here knowing that that's your dream out there and that's where you want to be and you'd love to be in that car?
It's for sure tough, and I'd love to be in the car, I'd love to be on the grid, but I have to step back and think 5 years ago I'd be doing anything to be in this position right now, and for sure it would have been my dream to be a Formula One reserve driver, to be one step closer to my goal. So I know it's all a part of the process, and I'm still in Formula 2 this year, so I wouldn't have been on the grid anyway. To be here as an F1 reserve driver, getting this knowledge, getting this experience, it can only help me for when hopefully that time comes.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Jack.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Crofty.
Great character, Jack Doohan. Looking forward to seeing him racing in F2 this year, and looking forward to a few more visits from him to the commentary box as well. Now, whilst Rachel was talking to Jack, out came the Red Bull off its jacks, and Max Verstappen, no DRS, starts his latest race run then, because they're not using DRS.
Not using DRS, yeah, but I am seeing quite shiny sidewall tyres on that Red Bull as well at the same time. You see how, and they had some harvesting going on from the heat recovery into turn one, so not a full-on attack like we've seen from others, but the tyres look like they're in pretty good shape, if not brand new on this run. But a second and a half already down in the first sector proves what we were thinking, Crofty. It's not a full-on attack, but it's still looking very well poised, that car, I have to say. And to me, it looks heavy. It looks heavy, to be fair.
But when you say looking really well poised,
yeah?
For those that aren't on your wavelength at this moment in time, like balanced, settled, doing what the driver wants it to do, where do you mean on that?
So it's not fighting him. I'm not seeing his hands everywhere on the wheel. I'm not seeing the car kick out at all like we saw with Lando Norris, for example, coming up to this corner here on the exit of 13. And it seems to be a nice, calm experience for the driver. And the car's compliance over bumps and curbs and the way it's not locking up, it just looks well poised for me, that it's able to be in the right position, ready to attack the corner in the way that the driver wants to attack it.
Right, okay.
It's kind of the best way I can describe it. It's just another way to describe the body language of the car. Looks good to me. The driver's not stressed, and the car doesn't look stressed either.
Whereas at other times, other cars we've seen just not compliant, not doing what the driver's asking it to do, and causing a lot of stress for the pilot behind the wheel. Fernando's looking in his mirrors there to see if anyone's about, and you'll notice that the mirrors are bigger this year. We haven't talked about the mirrors yet. They've made the mirrors bigger, and so surprise of all surprises, the driver can see better what's behind them.
They
still look a bit small, though, don't they?
They're narrow, but they're longer. They're definitely wider, aren't they? So the visibility will never be brilliant from a mirror in an F1 car. But as the drivers become more and more cocooned inside these cars with the halo and the higher head restraint, head protection, you rely on the mirrors more and more. And so I think it's a good thing. It's there for safety. And, you know, sometimes the drivers, we give them benefit of the doubt that, well, they can't see much from them. So, of course, you know, it's no surprise that they turned in on the driver trying to overtake them towards the apex of the corner. But then we hear, I've got rear blistering on my tyres, and or rear graining. I can see it in the mirror come up quite often.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, they see that. Funnily, you can see that, but not the car.
Is he going for another fast lap here?
I think the tyres look pretty shiny on the sidewalls once again. DRS is open. Is Fernando on another attack lap here towards turn one? Hopefully we can stay with this.
Looking to make a name for
himself.
himself.
Was that a little lock up there into turn one? It's hard to see on that camera angle. But it looked like he was on the right line, at least, at the apex of one towards the exit.
Well, it's already looking good through a few of the mini sectors in this first part of the lap. As Alonso maybe chasing here the potential for the fastest time of the day. We're 24 minutes to go, but he's not put together enough mini sectors.
He was round about 2/10 down in the first sector on his last push lap.
Right.
But just because he didn't go personal best, he's still somewhere close to what he achieved before. It's such a hard track to nail the perfect lap. There are so many slow speed corners, like he went wide, for example, in a little bit in turn 4, couldn't quite carry the speed on the exit there, and also into turn 8. He ran wide there, a little bit off the apex of turn 11 and picked up that red and white curb on the exit. That increases more understeer. I would say this hasn't been as well a driven lap by him. Although he goes faster in that bit of
touching distance,
proving me wrong.
But is he trying to preserve his tyres a little bit as well for the final sector? You know, keeping those rears.
I still think there was more. He's pretty much matching where he was last time at this stage, and this was his best sector, the best sector of overall. Don't forget, he's run wide as well.
Oh dear.
So I would say throughout the whole lap, he was basically the same speed as he was before.
I'll tell you what, he ran wide there, and how much time's he lost by running wide? Or has he not lost?
I would say it was around 2.5 tenths in that final corner.
All right, so he's ended up 2 tenths down. Yeah, just over 2 tenths down.
When he started the lap, all squirrely as well, didn't he? So I wonder if they're just playing around with tyre temperatures here. because it didn't really look like that. That's the last lap. So two different moments.
All I'm going to say is if he's lost 2.5 tenths there, that might have still been the fastest lap, but he'd not have gone wide. He did go wide, so it's not going to be.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like I said, this track, such a technical track. It's not many high-speed corners here. Most of them slow, and most of them really, like I describe it as a technical circuit. It's a bit like if you're watching, say, like people always say, "What do you mean by technical circuit or technical corner?" It's a bit like if you watch like the BMX World Championships or something. They're all the high, big old air stunts and all the elaborate stuff, the flips, the back flips. But when they get into the details, the detailed work of what they do on the ground and how they pop a wheelie and, where they place their feet, and it's all of the detailed work.
Yeah.
I would describe that as the technical element of their sport. So the technical element of our sport is the slow speed corners. How you would tackle the slow. You spend most of your time in a slow speed corner. The high speed corners is roll your sleeves up, take a breath,
go for it,
hold your breath, and then go for it. Wrestle the car around. It's a different skill set to the technical aspect of, that light touch you need, the detailed work that goes into, the patience that goes into a slow speed corner. And this track is full of them. Absolutely full of them.
Yeah, it's a track that rewards patience.
Yeah, big time.
How patient has Valtteri Bottas been? Now, I think Valtteri's driving style is ideal for Bahrain, certainly for a qualifying lap round here.
Yeah, he likes a front limited car. By that I mean a car that when you turn the steering wheel, it's not going to suddenly pinch you into the corner and turn super quickly like a go-kart would, or like flying a kite where it just wants to completely dart one way or the other. He likes a car that's much more balanced, with a front that's just sliding a little bit more than the rear would of the car. So we call that a front limited setup or track. Even gives you that feel within the car, and Bottas has always preferred tracks like that.
Crazy sends us this tweet, and you might think I'm crazy to read this tweet out, but we are nearly a third of the way through pre-season testing, so therefore I'm going to anyway. Which team has impressed you most so far? Do you think Red Bull are likely to be just as dominant this year? Now, normally towards the end of the first day, we're like, no, there's a lot more to come. But we're nearly a third of the way through this. Are Red Bull likely to be just as dominant this year? It is worth saying, with 150 now laps on the board and the fastest time, they couldn't have done much more to enjoy their first day than they already have been.
It looks like it's come pretty effortlessly to them, doesn't it? It looks like they've run around, done their program. Max looks super comfortable inside the car. No real dramas. Reliability's been good. Yes, of course, you'd always want more, and that's the nature of Formula One and the people involved, but it looks effortless from the outside. It looks like they've just gone through their program and, oh, look, we just happen to be fastest as well, rather than really chase it tooth and nail, say like Fernando has from inside the Aston Martin.
I think he's chased it a bit hard down at the turn one. He might have locked up Fernando Alonso. You just turned your attention away from the screen in our commentary box, and there was a big puff of white smoke in the distance. We'll see if we get a replay on that one. Is it fair to say with Red Bull, if there is going to be a problem, let's have a look going at the turn one first. You know that bump that Jack Doohan was talking about earlier? That one there, around about the 150 metre board. I wonder if that unsettled the car a touch, or is Fernando playing away with brake bias? And
looked like the lockup came quite late actually, but yeah, it's always a hard one to manage that bump on the way into turn one. Like I say, it's really dependent as well on the wind direction. Earlier on in the day, they had a massive tailwind, and now it's more of a side wind. So they would have been able to brake a little bit later in this afternoon session rather than the morning session. So you're constantly having to readjust things from inside the car, and so that side wind today blows the car more through turn four as Norris looks like he's on a better lap, personal best there, but ran a bit wide at the apex of 10, just as I was mentioning that side wind.
So I was going to say, Red Bull's problems, is it just too easy to say if they are going to have a problem this year, it is more likely to come in the second half of the season due to the lack of wind tunnel and CFD development time because of that sliding scale, because they start from such a strong position? Or is that just too simplistic, I wonder? Lots of green mini sectors for Lando Norris here.
Yeah, he's only just under 6/10 down as opposed to a second down, so he's found a bit of lap time. And let's see how this final sector was for him. Yeah, so hangs on to around that 6/10 down, so a little bit better, but still not on Aston Martin's pace. And we know that there was a little bit more coming as well for Fernando on that lap where he ran wide in the final corner, but everybody can find a little bit more lap time if you try again. No, I want to see really where the Red Bull is. I almost want to get the pain out of the way now, rather than be thinking, what more have they got? I want a 3-team fight, at least a 3-team. It'd be greedy to ask for more, but it's what I've wanted for such a long time.
The ingredients are there for Ferrari in terms of switching development on last year's car off a little bit earlier, prioritizing this year once again, going back to the drawing board and thinking, right, we'll come out of the blocks, all systems firing for 2023. The fact that they've got more time in the wind tunnel, more CFD time as well throughout the season in their battle with Red Bull, but of course Mercedes have time in hand on both of them in that regard. I like the fact Ferrari have kept the nature and the style of last year's car to a concept that they understand without making drastic changes in the style of the car.
Yeah, it's funny just from looking at the body language of the car and the aesthetics of the cars. Say you take the Mercedes and the Ferrari, you can clearly see Mercedes have gone, on second thoughts, let's try something different for 2023. But the Ferrari, to me, it looks like the same format. It looks like a revised version of, like a honed version of what they had last year. And the Red Bull as well.
So this time in the morning session, we had a yellow flag as well, if you weren't with us in the morning session. Fret not. Doesn't mean someone stopped out on track or there's a problem. Very shortly, we should be going into a virtual safety car test. I tried to sound a bit more excited about that. A virtual safety car test, ladies and gentlemen, because all the systems need checking.
Well, it is testing. I know we're trying our best to keep the entertainment levels high for you wherever you're watching, but you can't really brush it up anymore, can you? A virtual safety car test. It's a test session at the end of the day, and that's what they're testing. The FIA need to test their systems as well.
And we've extended the chassis. I can't even say it.
Easy for you to say.
It's been a long day. Session by 15 minutes to accommodate this as well. So the teams aren't losing out, but all the systems get checked and checked properly. Someone's spilt a bucket load of Floviz paint all over the one side of that Aston Martin. Seems like a good time if we're going to get a virtual safety car test where the pace of the cars is decreased by 40%, to employ some sort of aero test, constant speed aero test, and
it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, why not throw a whole load of Floviz paint over the car when you're going slowly anyway? But it depends how fast you're allowed to go, what speed you're looking to achieve. Because if you're looking to achieve a 250 kilometer an hour aero cruise control test, you might not get away with that for long under a virtual safety car.
That is very true. But if you're looking to do something a bit slower,
then throw a whole load over the car.
Right in there. That is a Haas, ladies and gentlemen, with the red front wing in the foreground of your picture, not the Alpha Tauri, which is slightly similar. That is the blue and pink Alpine, which for the race weekend, for the first 3 race weekends, will become more predominantly pink. And somewhere under all that Floviz paint is a green Aston Martin.
Although it would be much easier to spot wouldn't it? If it was that colour green
that'd be
all over.
I'd be absolutely up for
Here
that.
we go. That's how they spray it on. And it dries incredibly quick.
Really?
Yeah, just as soon as the car's done its, say if you go through turn 2, turn 3, and you head up that back straight to 4, by the time you got to the end of the back straight of turn 4, it pretty much it's settled into position, and then it dries, and then
And someone has to clean all that off.
they do. But it's worthwhile. The pain is worth it. Well, hopefully it is for their sake. And you can take it back in the photos, go back to base, and you've got the aero department looking at all those streaks of where the stall points are, a congealed part of paint where there's not any streaks is where you got a stalling of the airflow.
Yeah.
And they're all looking, they analyze that and hold it under ultraviolet light to see it in even more detail. And yeah, they then can correlate, like we were talking about before. Is it matching what the wind tunnel said it would?
And if it is, then bingo, you're in business.
Then you can get on, you can basically crack on with what your development schedule is like and keep going in that direction. You don't have to change tact.
And that was the Alpha Tauri in front of the Red Bull with the black front wing.
It was, wasn't it?
So
I got caught out again. I wasn't really paying that much attention. I just thought, yep, there's a Haas.
see, I've cracked this myself now.
There it is again, yes.
Red front wing for Haas, black front
Yeah.
wing for Alpha Tauri.
Easy to say now.
See,
Let's see how you get on when it's lights out and away we go. Here they come down towards turn 1. There's the Alpha Tauri. Oh no! What? Oh no!
remind me never to ask you to be my voice double ever. That was painful. Sounded nothing like me. I'm from Herald Wing. I'm a world champion.
Tell you what, for all the ribbing you get, it's incredibly hard to sit down and call a race as a lead commentator. I've tried it. I don't know how you spot the cars and
Mate,
that
do I
constant
sometimes.
flow of stream of consciousness is amazing. It really is. It is definitely a skill to pick the right car at the right moment and the start of the race where they're all jostling for position. Yeah,
But that's why we say lights out and away we go, because
gives
it
you more time.
gives me a bit of time, you see. What I would say is it's an utter privilege to do the job I do and to work with the people I work with. And I don't know what else I do, quite frankly. I wake up with a smile on my face, and I look forward at this time of the year, especially because it's been a while, Anne. You know, to that moment. You had it when the lights went out and away you went, right? Because you were a driver. I get it when the lights go out and you walk the walk, I talk the talk.
Do you get full of adrenaline? Do you get nervous before the start of racing?
Yeah. You know I can't stop pacing around the commentary box just before it starts.
I just thought you were strutting your stuff.
It's like John Travolta. It's like, and some. No, Martin knows, because to stand back a little bit now, because I get very excited indeed. What are you looking at now in the
struts,
Ferrari?
look at the Ferrari.
Big
It's got some
struts.
real.
Is that strengthening struts there?
Looks like it, doesn't it? To stop to
Didn't look like sensors, did it?
measure the front wing flexion or something. They've only just put those on.
Yeah. Just for
The
the
last
last
8 minutes.
8 and a bit minutes. We'll keep an eye on that while we hear from Rachel Brooks. Rachel.
Hi, Crofty. I'm down at Red Bull at the moment because it looks like they're about to do a pit stop with Max Verstappen, or call him in at least. And the last time he came in, of course, that rear jack failed. So they've had a look at it. They've got 2 of them down here, the ones with the fluorescent yellow on them that are down. And he's coming in now, actually. So they're ready. They're running out. The boys and girls have run out into the pit lane here, ready to wait for him to come in. And he's coming down towards me now. So keep an eye on the rear jack and see if it works this time. This is the one that failed on his last venture into the pit lane. Looked okay that time, didn't it? But yes, testing, as I said earlier, all the equipment here ready ahead of the race season. They've got 2 different versions of their rear jack down here at the moment. So we'll wait to see which one comes out for the race next week here at this track in Bahrain.
They spend an awful long time coming up with new versions, lighter, stronger, easier to operate for front and rear jacks. And I love some of the innovations in the pit lane even. I'm sure some of the innovations do find their way into the pit wall when the mechanics throw them away at some stage. But there you go. Fernando Alonso, by the way, you were talking about siblings.
Yeah.
And it's the younger sibling, right?
Yeah.
That is 70%.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but it's quite a
more successful,
remarkably high number. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna Hunt. It says Fernando's got an older sister.
No,
Lorena, who I believe is a doctor.
And it said in the book that usually they're the academics. The
Really?
first sibling, yes, usually they're the academics.
Loving this.
The second sibling are usually the professional athlete.
Oh,
Just been proven by, who was she again? Who texted
Anna.
you? Anna. Well done, Anna. Thank you very much.
So, when you finish reading that book, I'd like to read that book, if that's okay.
Well, I'm in your club now. I've got reading glasses, so I'm racing through it. It's a game changer.
You start to look more intelligent.
Yeah.
I love it.
Look. That's the key word there. Speaking of looks,
These struts.
they can't run these in a race, can they? It's not the regulation. No, it's just a test.
But they can do them in testing.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if they did run them in the race, I don't think it would add to the advantage, to any performance advantage, would it? Do you want to strengthen that part of the front wing by putting some struts in?
I wouldn't have thought so, because I'm sure they use that flexion of the front wing as a bit of a balancing tool for the high-speed corners, where you don't want the car that pointy. And if you've got a bit of high-speed flexion going on,
does that happen
by chance? Because it's impossible to have such a long piece of carbon fiber without any flex in it. Otherwise, it would just snap with the load that they see by design. Maybe that's what they're looking at. If you stop the front wing if you stop it flexing in a straight line, you get to see what happens to the rest of the airflow over the car. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing, but
I like your hypothesis. If you had glasses on at this moment in time, I believe every single word she was saying. But this being testing, teams can try things out.
Yeah. You could really see the tension being taken up there.
I'd say
over the bumps.
Sam Collins and Ted Kravitz will be on the case with this one.
100%.
And look, you've got the cameras there as well.
Yeah, you've got the cameras on the edge. They're looking at the end plate there.
Yeah.
So, and look how reinforced it is on the
underside,
outside of the underside of the end plate. That really goes to show the stress that it's under.
I'm just wondering if a little reinforcement around the outer edges of the end plate isn't something for this year, and I'm hypothesizing now as well, that teams might decide is worth an investigation and worth a performance gain. Now, why that would be, I'm not sure, but I may have seen it elsewhere.
So if you could stop your end plate, the front end plates kind of
flexing inwards
or flexing outward, they would flex outwards. Yeah, I mean, look at the Alpha Tauri.
Black
and the end
wing.
plate, the end plates as they're and he slows down, and because the wing pops up, the end plate actually goes more vertical.
So stiffening
than an outward camber.
Yeah. So stiffening and stopping them flexing outwards.
What does that do to the airflow around the rest of the car? Do they want them to flex out? Is that an unwanted byproduct of the wing dropping down at speed? Or is that what they're going for? And we know how influential the end plates are on the front wings.
I'm just wondering, because I might have seen something similar elsewhere at another team, but not in the way that Ferrari were doing it on the underside necessarily. There's always something in testing that comes out of nowhere. In what you think is a fairly rigorously well-defined and leaving not a huge amount of room for improvisation set of technical regulations, there's always something.
Yeah, always something. There's never such a thing as wasted track time.
Yeah.
Oh, Lewis just getting a bit crossed up there on the mid-corner and on the exit.
Yeah, but I like to see
Turn 8.
Formula 1 cars making exits out of a corner like that. I know it's not
Doing
the
his,
fastest way.
Best Jim Clark impression.
Tom Barnett says, give it a rest, Crofty. It's testing. Times don't mean anything. Trying to build up the hype. Talk sense, for heaven's sake. Oh, don't be such a spoiled sport, Tom. I do keep saying the times aren't completely relevant. Well, when you see Fernando Alonso pop up, not just with that time, but the way the car looked and the way it handled and performed over the course of that lap, you know, it does make you sit up and take notice and have a little bit of a think. And he's only 3/100ths of a second off Max Verstappen. And either way, we're having fun and enjoying ourselves. So
well,
please enjoy yourself.
They do mean something, because this car on the screen here this time last year was way down the timesheets, and it looked pretty desperate. And look at the troubled year they had, and particularly in Bahrain, the first race, it was a pretty substandard effort from their standards. And I mean, the other thing to look at as well on the flip side, Lance Stroll at the end of the first day's classification last year was P4 in the Aston Martin. He was P4.
History repeating itself, sort of thing.
With a 34.7, and Fernando's on a 32.8.
Wow.
The fastest time last year was Pierre Gasly in AlphaTauri with a 33.9. So I think there was more sandbagging. And my gut feeling is there was more sandbagging going on at the start this time last year than where they are now.
Because of the regulation change. And we had 4 days as well, didn't we?
4 days as well. And they had the test in Barcelona as well before coming here. So I do think they're under more pressure now to really, truly go for more lap times. And I think it's more, they're definitely under more pressure to deliver lap times and to hone in on where they need to be.
So we'll get the checker flag in 25 seconds time. By the way, everyone hating your impression of me.
Really?
No, they love it, actually.
And it's lights out and away we go.
Yeah, see that?
There's the AlphaTauri and the Alpha, whatever it's called. Coming into turn one, it's a big lock. Oh no, it's a crash. It's a crash. Is that any better?
Sound like a crash.
You're blushing. You know that was good.
That was spot on.
I've had years of impersonating. Lewis Hamilton crosses the line with a checker flag out. End of play there. So he makes his way back into the pits slowly.
Honestly.
Brilliant day for Lewis Hamilton.
Thank you very much indeed, David Croft. I'm Anthony Davidson. I'm from Hemel. I am world champion.
I sound nothing like that.
You do. When you walk through the streets of Hemel, strutting like a proud peacock that you are. I'm from Hemel. Thank you, Track Life and Joe Hollis, for your messages and the stunning impression from Anthony Davidson, which I think is a very neat way to bring this day to a close, Anthony. We've talked a lot, sometimes about Formula One, and we've seen a lot too. And amidst all of the lappage that's been going on today, 157 of them by the defending champion, Max Verstappen. That is some return to work day for Max Verstappen.
He's going to have a long, restful day tomorrow. He's going to need to recoup. That's going to take its toll on the neck, the lower back muscles, and wow, what amount of laps. 157. How many kilometres is that? What's this track again? 5?
You've got a track map right in front of you, but I'm not sure that's got the kilometres on there. No, it's about 5.3, isn't it? 5.412 kilometres this track. You work that out, sir. While I look to see if anyone else...
850 kilometres.
Wow.
In one day.
That's 152 laps completed by Mercedes.
527 miles.
Okay, so
in a Formula 1, driving flat out in a Formula 1 car. Over 500 miles.
It's got to be something like London to Glasgow, isn't it?
Yeah.
500 odd miles. And
amazing.
If my internet on my laptop was working, I'd work that out right now, but it's not, sadly. Well, there's the man that I saw this morning when I walked into the paddock. He was arriving at the same time, Adrian Newey, who's he's not showing much emotion because I think he's having a very good look at what can and can't be modified, changed, improved. He'll be very happy. And what's nice, as we were talking, we were saying Dan Fallow's gone from Red Bull obviously to Aston Martin, the man who learns under Adrian Newey, the master and the apprentice, and we've got the master's car and the apprentice car separated by 3/100ths of a second. And apologies to Tom that I might be hyping that one up a little bit, but these are stories that might come.
And look at this! Look at this image here, Crofty. This is what it's about for Aston Martin. I know they had Sebastian Vettel and the wealth of experience that he had as well, but they haven't lost anything in that respect by Seb leaving. Fernando on the radio there. Already, you could see the determination and that fire in his eyes that he's saying, look, that was a proper debrief going on there. It was. It's like, right, everyone, this is how the car felt today. This is a job we need to do tomorrow. I mean, putting words in his mouth.